focus today continues to be telecom. Having said that, Bharti, after its operational numbers looked okay, that's the one which is seeing that bit of green. But clearly, it's the AGR sorrow which has really bogged the telcos down. Vodafone reported its highest quarterly loss in India Inc.'s history. Provisioning for AGR dues clearly leading to an over 20,000 crore rupee loss for Airtel as well. Sunita joins in with more details on where exactly, Sunita, the sector is headed from here.
And both Bharti Airtel and Idea Phone have posted loss of 74,000 crore rupees in Q2, largely because of the AGR hit that has been there. And just to put the perspective, the AGR provisioning that both these companies have made will account for roughly about 37 to 43% of the net debt. And so the debt position will continue to be very stressful for the telecom sector. Remember, beginning of this year, we were expecting that the stretch balance sheet will start improving. And because of this AGR hit, now that again we are looking at high debt position for both the companies. In case of Vodafone Idea, at the end of the 30th September, the net debt to EBITDA was 24x, and analysts believe that it could go as high as 28x. And this will lead for them to raise more money going forward. And looking at the position of the Vodafone, if you look at the market cap has diminished over the last few years, and Vodafone has already said that they will not be investing any kind of money. It looks very difficult that they can raise money going forward. So all eyes are now on the SECI panel if there's some relief can be provided. If you look at the commentary coming from the management of both the companies, they are both saying that they will need some relief from the government if they need to continue as a going concern going forward. So this is expected, and the stakes are very, very high for if there no relief is given. And if you look at that, bank exposure is very, very high at 1 lakh crore to the sector. Even if last time we saw two companies, Aircel and Reliance, RCOM closure led to roughly about 50,000 investment being wiped out. And something similar could happen if there is any of the companies faces a closure because of because their inability to go forward. And also whether India can survive with just two players, that also has to be seen. We have to remember that Jio only offers 4G services, and there are large subscribers in 2G and 3G, which can't be only catered by Bharti Airtel if Voda Idea has to indeed shut down. So we'll have to, the ball is now in the court of SECI's panel, and we'll have to see how this moves on going forward, and we'll expect some kind of relief to be given by the government, because this is the one sector which needs to be there for India to achieve their digital India dream, as well as the 5 trillion economy dream of in 2024.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us with that, Sunita. A lot of critical factors at play there. And we've now going to continue that discussion with Nitin Soni as well as Mr. Chandrashekhar, who are joining us as well this morning. Mr. Chandrashekhar, thank you so much for being with us. You know, it's a critical time for the sector, given the latest whammy that we've, of course, seen being dealt to them. You've been part of policy making, Mr. Chandrashekhar, and we really want to get your unique perspective. How important is it for the government to really consider a rescue or some kind of relief, for some of the incumbents who are dealing with severe financial strain, who've actually pretty much come out and said that, one of them has come out and said that this could be the end of the road for them, should the government not come up with any kind of relief measure on this front. Given that the telecom industry in India is important to India's growth story, the whole digitization effect and so forth, do you see this as a critical juncture and a critical verdict?
Yes, I think there is no question about it. There are no two opinions about it, that the sector is lurching into another crisis. It has weathered several crises before, and today I think the situation is particularly grim in the light of the Supreme Court judgment. On the merits of the judgment, I would not like to comment, but the fact of the matter is that the whole idea was to keep the computation simple and fix a percentage based on a computation which was not very complicated, like say income tax, where you have different, breaks and different exemptions and so on. So it can be argued that the definition was kept simple and the percentage was fixed on that basis. And then, in effect, if you are quibbling about the definition, then you are actually negotiating the percentage. So the Supreme Court has taken that view, and probably the companies did not expect that, because TRAI and TDSAT had supported their view in the earlier cases. But coming as it does 15 years after the original dispute, when the conditions in the industry are so completely different, I think this has been a blow which would be very difficult for the companies to take into their stride at this point. So, in short, it is absolutely imperative for some view to be taken on how this can be mitigated. I would also go further and say that we are actually in the sector at another 1999 moment. You would recall that in 1999, when the NTP 94 had been in vogue for 5 years, companies which had bid huge amounts for the two cellular licenses found that they had grossly overestimated the market potential, and the entire sector was on the verge of coming to a grinding halt. At that time, the government actually bit the bullet and came up with the revenue share scheme and a migration package, which I think in retrospect was a very, very wise move and enabled the telecom revolution later.
Right.
We are at that kind of situation now at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And Nitin Soni, if I could come to you as well and bring you in the discussion. The AGR provisioning, as expected, has substantially hit both Bharti as well as Vodafone. Both have expressed concerns that it might be difficult to continue as the going concern unless, there is relief coming in from the government. What is your own sense? Will the balance sheet continue to be stretched for longer than earlier expected? Could there be a danger of sudden demise of any company as well coming in?
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show. So we have a rating of BBB minus, which is on rating watch negative for Bharti Airtel. And we believe that if Bharti were to pay this large amount, which is due following this AGR judgment, it would lead to a negative rating action. I think it's fair to say that for Vodafone Idea, it could cause a big financial distress, given their EBITDA generation has been quite low compared to the other two peers in the market. Their second quarter EBITDA was only about 10 billion INR, which is only a fraction of the Reliance Jio's EBITDA performance, which is now about 50 billion plus INR on a quarterly basis. So in light of, their stagnant EBITDA generation and their limited financial flexibility to invest in CapEx, this is definitely a big blow for their financials if they were to pay this large amount within 3 months. And they will rapidly start losing market share if, this situation continues and they pay this amount, given they would have limited flexibility to invest in CapEx. And this is a competitive market where if you don't invest at least, or if you slow down your investment for it, even for 6 months, this will lead to a rapid deterioration in your subscriber base. So I think it's overall, we believe that the market share will get skewed towards Jio, and Bharti would also gain a bit of an incremental market share from here on. But definitely, it's quite a financial shock to both Vodafone Idea and Bharti if they were to pay this amount. We also expect that, as the government has appointed this cabinet of secretaries panel to discuss this issue and to consider whether they want to provide any kind of a relief to the sector. We expect, some kind of relief to come from the government. And that is the reason why we have a rating watch negative on Bharti's rating. Given, these telcos pay a significant amount of taxes on their revenue. So we will have to monitor this and see that if, government intends to provide a good quantum of relief to the sector or not.
Exactly. And on that point, Mr. Chandrashekhar, like Nitin as well is saying, the ball clearly seems to be in the Secretary's panel's court right now. What could be the possible relief that could be provided for the sector, which is dealing with this body blow of the AGR dues?
Well, there are several possible options, starting with the option of not doing anything, which clearly is going to be disastrous for the sector. But given that, out of this huge amount of, 92,000 crores or close to 1 lakh crores that has now become due, 25,000 of that is the actual revenue, and the rest of it is interests and penalties and interest on the penalty and so on. So the options are, the softest option is to give an extended time for payment. Whether that is possible or not, because the Supreme Court has also indicated that they would specify a time frame within which the payments have to be made. So one is stretching out the period for the payment with interest would be one option, which is a smaller cut for the government. Without exempting the interest would actually amount to some relief. The other is going further into more relief would be to exempt the interest on the penalty, and then you can exempt the penalty. So there's a gradation of responses. But I think that, we are, the sector is in a situation where, patchwork remedies or band-aid solutions may not really work, because we have to consider the effects on competition. I think the point was brought out by Nitin earlier. We need Jio, the country needs Jio, but we also need Jeene Do at the same time, where the other operators are also there, and a competitive environment is maintained with at least two or most preferably 3 players who are all healthy and competent. We need to look at what implications this has for the infrastructure growth, especially in the rural areas with all the plans for Digital India. We look at the impact it will have on 5G, which will require a fresh bout of investment. And given that this 1 lakh crores is a vast sum of money and is almost 45% of what is the debt on their books, this could have an implication for the banks, which have lent big money to the sector. They have already been buffeted by earlier events in the sector. Only 2 out of the 15 companies which are affected by the Supreme Court judgment are in business today. That tells you something about the kind of turmoil the sector has been through. And I think all of these are significant issues which need to be looked at. The second couple of very quick points I want to make is that, the National Digital Communications Policy of 2018, that is just about a year ago, actually says that the policy aims for universal coverage rather than revenue maximization. That statement is now being, in a sense, put to test. And finally, the Supreme Court had observed that the grounds on which the telcos had sought a stay were frivolous. But it tells us something about the legal environment prevailing, that you can get a stay on tens of thousands of crores of dues on frivolous grounds, and then a verdict can be held back by 15 years. I think certainly in a digital economy, we have to have a faster system of redressal, whether it is of competition issues or statutory issues. I think all of these are issues which need to be looked at. These are fairly fundamental issues and cannot be sorted out just by a few patchwork
That's
remedies.
right.
I think it needs a very intensive examination of all these issues.
True. Mr. Chandrashekhar, unfortunately, we're running out of time, so I'm going to have to wind up the discussion, but you've given us a great tagline, Jio or Jeene Do. Nitin Soni, good to have you join in on the phone line as well. Thank you so much for taking the time out.